Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Listen, you were tuning in for a quick shot because this young man has to get back to work. You were tuned in for a quick shot of a midday Java. Shout out to the city of Boston, Michael and Claire. I reached out, I think it was actually yesterday, and said, listen, with the impending snowstorm, a lot of what we've seen on social media, and let's get understanding of how things work from prediction to post snow cleanup, removing mounds, and all that other stuff. And so I am honored and excited that this young man is willing to come in and speak with us. I will say this that well, I'm going to hold it in case I have to say it, but you know that this is a space of hospitable accountability, and that needs to be reflected in the comments and stuff today. So I just felt the need to say that. So without further ado, let's bring Nick Gove. I think I got it right, Nick, into the Java Cafe. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, because though you may not be out there physically, you know, you got a lot going on. And so if you don't mind, Nick, I want to be fair and away from your position and whatnot. If you could just say hello to the audience, and if you can, give us about 30 to 45 seconds of who you are and how you got to your journey to being the interim, and I've been saying Snowzar, but the interim chief of streets there at the city of Boston. And then we'll get into some questions and allow you to kind of explain what the process is, how decisions are made, how neighborhoods are prioritized. And so please say good morning to the audience, and then give us just about 45 seconds of your journey into this post.
Sure. So thanks for having me. My name is Nick Gove. I'm the interim chief of streets for the city of Boston. Part of my role is also serving as public works commissioner. I joined the city 3 years ago as the deputy chief for transportation. And the other part of that job is serving as commissioner of the Boston Transportation Department. I've been doing snow and ice operations for over 20 years. I worked for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for a long time. And another municipality before that. So welcome and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And so, Nick, being in this business for 20 years, I think you know that some of the valid concerns that have been expressed by communities and in certain parts of Boston are very real. And so if you don't mind, I know your time is short. If you don't mind, can you give us a sort of run through of, you hear prediction, you all have the responsibility for this week, like this weekend is a perfect case scenario. What is the process of prediction to cleanup?
Sure. So, you know, for us, snow and ice culture is year round. You know, we're thinking about snow and ice when we design and maintain streets. The type of equipment that we need to procure and purchase to do that work. But for an event like this, you know, we start preparing several days out once we start to see that there's something significant in the forecast. And that planning starts to include decisions around, do we need a snow emergency, a parking ban, the things that we're going to need to properly clear the city. In this case, this ended up being a historic event, 23.2 inches. That's the 8th largest event on record in the city. So for this one, it was a well forecasted event. We ended up implementing a snow emergency and a parking ban on Sunday. The snow came in pretty quick. We went to some pretty high rates of snowfall on Sunday right away. You know, when the evolution of an event for us, our first priority is we are trying to keep streets free and clear for public safety, police, fire, and EMS, particularly when you get into an event that's accumulating 1-2+ inches an hour. That is our priority, making sure that all roads are accessible. For example, we did have a fire on Sunday afternoon. And, you know, fortunately, Boston Fire was able to respond to that. We're in close communication with them. We also had an AFC Championship game ongoing. So we had a lot of ride share, food delivery happening. Most of that was able to happen without event. The bulk of the event, the majority of the snowfall ended around 2 o'clock in the morning, early on Monday. We then had a lull, which allowed us to move to pushing back to curb, opening up the streets even further, because we know what's coming after, which is kind of what we call the storm after the storm. So people then need to clear out their driveways, right? They need to clear off their cars in the street, sidewalks. We ask residents not to put snow back into the street, but we understand that's going to happen, right? So we switch back to, after they're doing that, we're going back in repeatedly, plowing streets, treating with salt as necessary. In this particular event, we had another 4 to 5 inches come in on the back end Monday night, so we kind of had to pause some of that post-storm cleanup, go back to the plowing and treating operation I mentioned. That played into the decision as to why there was no school on Tuesday.
Okay.
And then in the early hours of Tuesday, once the precipitation was gone, we moved back into snow removal. We've been doing snow removal ever since. Tuesday, the priority was all about schools and making sure that schools were cleared out, that buses could get to where they needed to go, that there was a safe place to drop off and pick up students. And fortunately, we had some issues that we had to deal with in real time, but for the most part, everybody was able to get where they needed to go safely. After that, we're now focusing on our other vulnerable populations, right? We're focusing on removing snow from intersections that have been blocked in, transit hubs, priority crosswalks that are on main arterials. We want to make sure that those intersections and curb cuts are open. Unfortunately, that work takes a significant amount of time, particularly in an event like this. People have continued to be very patient with us. They've also been very supportive in providing the information that we need about issues to 311. And we ask people to continue to do that. We understand that this event has been challenging in so many ways. We haven't had any recovery temperatures. We have super cold weather that's not allowing any melting really. So we ask people to continue to provide us that information and be patient while we continue to clean up from this event. Fortunately, you mentioned the storm potential for this weekend. That event is trending to move well east of us. There's likely to be some impacts, could be a few inches of snowfall at most, but right now we're not anticipating a significant event for Sunday.
I think you're more familiar with when you talk about anticipation and prediction. The past few years have been interesting, and because of your history, we've had some flubs. We got prepared, we've canceled school, and I go back to Mayor Menino, and so I'm familiar. Nick, if I can ask you, I thank you for the going through the process and generally in the city that is happening. However, my algorithm and the people that I engage with and what I've been seeing on social media, there are a lot of places in the city that the mounds are causing issues for people to see. I had one incident I forgot what day it was, where I physically was walking out and didn't see a car because of a mound and literally had to go like this.
Mhm.
And then I asked also how you prioritize when you get into the neighborhoods. How do you prioritize neighborhoods? I'm sure you're well familiar with the fact that there is an air of some inequity around Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. I have tried to say certain streets in this city can't take a regular plow. You noted the fact that you've had to come through again. Nick, there's been pictures and a lot of stuff where people have shoveled out their cars and they come back and they're buried. As a 20-year vet that did this at the state, at the city, what are you saying to people that feel like they're not prioritized, and not only feel, but they can look out the window and see mounds here in Dorchester? Someone on my show earlier said, oh, they're removing the mounds in the South End. I think you can appreciate that there's an appearance of not prioritizing certain neighborhoods. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I think I would first say that, we understand how stressful and how frustrating events like this are. Um, we are removing snow citywide in every neighborhood. We have 6 different snow farms across the city where we're hauling snow to. We're trying to focus on areas like you mentioned, like if we have a known line of sight issue for vehicles and pedestrians, we're trying to focus on that. Um, Many neighborhoods across the city have really, really narrow streets. And we understand that, when you get a historic event like this, it can be really frustrating because there is no place to put the snow. Um, and when we don't get the melting conditions, that is staying around for longer than we'd like. And, we are focusing on taking out those big mounds. And again, we're trying to focus on the most vulnerable populations, your main arterials, to try to free up those spaces that are heavily traveled. We know that we have more work to do. We just continue to ask for people's patience while we get there.
While you're getting there, in the getting there, and folks are trying to get around and get there too. When on my street right here, there's 25 mounds where people have, shoveled out their cars and they're there. And I don't think they're responsible for moving mounds. All right, let me ask it like this, Nick, if you don't mind. When will remember the days when they would put the stake when are the stakes coming around the Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan?
Sure. So the stakes are out, and I think that work will continue. I just think we've had to focus on the main arterial locations to free up space for both school buses, MBTA buses, large vehicles like trash trucks. Picking up solid waste and recycling in a week like this is really
and in fairness, now the people behind them
yeah.
are not happy, but the trash truck came through this morning and so did recycling. If you don't mind, and I know we got you for about maybe 2 more minutes. So the number one, this was one of the number and a couple of things. Jurisdiction. What is the city responsible for quickly, and what responsibilities are on the state? That I think that is good because I said that the mayor she got enough of her own stuff. She don't need no extra. What is the jurisdiction? I've seen bus stops. Can you clarify? Is that the MBTA and Kelios? I'm an old head. Kelios subcontracted to clean those out. I've seen videos and stuff where it is. You mentioned safety, Commissioner, and there's some things that I've seen, recent pictures, some posts. There are people in here, and I keep saying Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan. Kelly lives in the South End. She mentioned downtown, and I've seen some others that downtown is a mess. So in fairness, it's kind of like citywide where this is your first time here. So I'm going to try to keep the questions less loaded with so many things in one question. Snow melt machines. Why don't we have them as the city of Boston?
Sure. I guess starting with your jurisdictional question,
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah.
Please.
So there's a bunch of different entities that have jurisdictional responsibilities within the city of Boston. Obviously, the city has the majority of that, but there are Mass DOT, DCR, Massport, MBTA responsibilities as well. We have a well-coordinated effort with those entities, and we try to support each other, where we can. On the issue of bus stops, that's the MBTA's responsibility. We also ask abutters to help with that. Residents' responsibilities around sidewalks and curb cuts in front of their homes, that is their responsibility to clear.
What was the last word you said? Sidewalks and what?
I'm sorry, curb cuts.
Curb cuts.
Yeah, the accessible curb cut that's at the intersection to allow people with strollers who are in a wheelchair to safely access.
That's a courtesy ask if you are in a butter at a corner. It's a courtesy ask. Okay. similar to fire hydrants, right? That is for public safety and accessibility of our ADA community.
Right.
So, okay, that the curbs and stuff isn't the city's responsibility.
There are locations where there's no, for example, there is no a butter, right? And
Yes.
so
Yep. Yep.
yes, and so the city obviously focuses on taking responsibility for that. But additionally, we understand that if a large mound has been piled against an intersection, we do put that on the list for removal, because we understand that while it might be the abutter's responsibility, that might be beyond some people's capability.
And I definitely understand that. Nick, do you agree? And we're a couple of seconds over time. I'll ask one question. If you were to give a grade, A being passing and F being total fail, what grade would you give your operation in this last incident?
Honestly, I'd say I think we're a B to B plus based on the size of this. This is a historic event. I mean, there is not a snow and ice event that there is not a set of things that you would go back and do differently. That is part of our kind of post-storm, debrief on what we can do better. We learn from every single one of these, and we will continue to improve our operation in the future. But I would be remiss if I didn't shout out our incredible team.
Yes.
That's been working.
Individual. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, these are all mostly all City of Boston residents. They're your friends, they're your neighbors, they're your family members. We've had folks that have been working almost nonstop since Sunday, and it's an incredible demonstration of commitment and dedication to their craft. And I want to acknowledge that, and hope people that can understand to continue to have some patience with us, because again, these are your friends, neighbors, and family that are doing this work.
We have to give credit to the individuals and the employees who are doing some overtime. That's had some budget implications for y'all. I get that. I just in a city like Boston, Nick, I think you can appreciate, being the eighth. For some of us from Boston, I'm 54. This wasn't that historical. I think in the comparison of the past few years, yes, outside of 10 years ago, 15 with 100 or some odd inches.
Yeah.
I think it's valid that the residents, this is Boston. This is what we do. Last question. Why does it not feel like we are an expert in this space? I know there's different leadership but there's some, and you come with some experience. What credit? Not time for melting. Boston has some interesting streets. We park on both sides of the street. Some of the pictures I've seen, they're snatching up the snow, but there's no cars on the street. So what in the next incident will demonstrate that Boston knows this is not new? What you talk about improvement? If this thing came Saturday, we would have been, for some neighborhoods, it would have been very, very bad. Why aren't we demonstrating we're an expert in snow removal?
No, fair question. But I have to push back a little, and I do feel we are experts in this field, and we really do have a team of professionals that have been doing this for a long, long time. I think the conditions that we're dealing with now, you referenced the winter of 2014 and 2015. While we had essentially a series of snow events over that month of late January and February, it was really the two twin events that were 20 plus inches that winter, both in late January and then again in the first week in February, is what really caused that to be the kind of historic event that it was. For example, if it was going to snow again this weekend, we would be going back, doing another parking ban. We'd be continuing to do removal from the road this week and weekend. But yeah, I mean, one of the challenges we had with this storm is, it had been a few years since we had done this, and
Yep. And
we
I
had
said that. Yeah. Yep.
we had to unfortunately tow what we believe is a historic number of vehicles from the roadway. And while we were able to get most of them, in some cases we could not. And so that created some issues as far as not being able to get to the curb.
I again, we're a couple of seconds over time. Nick, and it's interesting to hear how BTD, DPW have now kind of, I'm an old head. I would encourage, you may not be out there, no disrespect. I'm saying you can't be in every corner. And similar to the mayor, you can only, where your eyes aren't, you have to depend on other people's eyes. And based on these comments here, Nick, and what I've been seeing on social media, I would believe that the community would disagree with the B+. And so I'm not sure who you can delegate, or if you can. I know the Mayor Menino used to do it. I think Mayor Wu went out with the good brother in the car the other day, and some of the community thanked him and credited him on that point of thanking the individuals.
Yeah,
I think that it would behoove some delegates of yours, I'll say specifically, ride down Washington Street in South Dorchester, go on Fuller Street. People saying downtown in the South End too, but the experience of the residents, I don't think is matching with the assessment that you gave. And so, as you said, you all will go back and debrief, but there is, people are very disappointed because this is Boston. So I'm sure you get that. Any closing remarks, sir? And I will say, we still got 48 hours for this thing to possibly shift on the weekend. Is there any potential prep that if it shifts tomorrow, are you all, citing that as considering that as well? So the frustration not matching up with the assessment, what do you say to that? And away from the patients, what do you say to the everyday resident that is just like, ugh?
Yeah, no, we understand the frustration, and again, I think the challenges that we're dealing with are not limited to any one neighborhood in particular. But I think when we base our assessment, we understand that there's still work to get to, but at no time during the event did we lose a street. We were able to keep everything open for travel. We were able to get school back with only a 2-day cancellation. We were able to keep MBTA buses and sanitation trucks moving, while slower and certainly frustrating for folks. We have been able to keep the city moving this week, and again, we understand that it is incredibly frustrating for residents to get back to that kind of normal place, but we just continue to ask for your patience while we do that work.
Last question. What neighborhood you live in, Nick?
Charlestown.
Okay. Where's Charlestown on the list? How's it going out there?
I mean, frankly, we have some very tight streets in Charlestown.
The Bunker Hill and Roxbury does too, so that's real. But
yeah.
How's the neighborhood looking with the cleanup? Someone asked that question.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay.
We're getting there. We have like many other neighborhoods, there's work to do there as well.
Okay. I'm personally asking, as a friend of the administration and whatnot, that the demonstration of your B+, I would ask that the execution of that be heightened, very soon. And again, I'm saying Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, because we experience the most inequities. But in fairness, they're saying the South End and downtown as well. And so, Nick, if there's ever information you need to get out or clarity, we're here. And, hopefully I won't have to invite you. This is what, the end of January. Hopefully I won't have to invite you back this season. I have to say, though, we're a little frustrated. Thank you for what the attempts and efforts. And I think you have acknowledged that there's a canyon for improvement rather than a room. And so thank you for being with us today. And again, we're here if you need to get some information out.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Nick.
Take care.
Someone started doing it. So I see C plus. Curtis said D plus. Along with Curtis, we're not yet. I've looked into some internet. What is it? IOP? No, POI. Phone over internet. POI. I've looked at that, but we're not set up. Not in a rush to take calls yet. Dina sent Jesus Lord. James in Charlestown, the difference is because community come together to help each other out, so they end up shoveling the whole street. Excuse me, real talk. We don't come together in the hood. Dina, I would push back a little bit on that, because on my street right here, oh boy, folks was doing the sidewalks. They was borrowing each other's, somebody needed a spark plug. So one dude said that he would take it to the shop. And then he was able to use that person's snow plow. I've seen people collaborating on the pile in some cases. And so we do that. I think that I would give it, I don't think nobody disagrees with the fact that our expectation of this being Boston is real. Now, I've said before, and not capping for him, I said this before he came on, when I was talking to someone about the budget. We ain't had a couple of bad snow. We haven't had bad snowstorms in a couple of years. So when they're looking at the budget, they're probably decreasing some of that during line item. I bet you next year's budget is probably that line item is going to go up. And we got to give homage to the individuals that are out there working for DPW, the Transportation Department, BTD, Department of Public Works. Those individuals, we got to honor them and thank them. When the mayor posted a video with the brother from DPW, there was a lot of people from community was like, yeah, that's our guy. So you got to have that balance. There's a canyon for improvement. If this was like, I don't know, Dallas, I don't know, this is Boston. So he clarified jurisdictions. There was some things that I learned. I say the state, but DCR, he mentioned a couple of other ones. And so Curtis made a point of them Curtis made a few points of them collaborating together. Man, America's in the building. I hope so. The snow is real. Thank you for the work, DPW. Curtis, this is valid. Hold on. This is valid as far as, what did you say? Renters versus owners. That I think Curtis may be referring to Charlestown, maybe. Dina said, how many times I see each person only care about their own spot and not helping clean behind or in front of the cars, which help clean the street, making more parking. Most times that doesn't happen in the hood. Like you said, most times. But there are pockets of it, because I want to make sure that we do have community, here in our community. But Dina, she calls out some valid points in some cases. Curtis, I can't stand you. So again, wanted to bring some clarity and also share with him that, and I'm sure he's aware. I'm sure and he did. You heard what he said. And let me say to us, posting is good. And I did hear that some people were getting hung up on and not getting case numbers. If that happens to you, email us at info@javawithjimmy around the time you called and any descriptor that you can give about the call. Because I'll pass that on. When you call 311, you should never, ever, no matter how small or whatever, you should never, ever be denied a case number. And if you are, that's a problem. So we handled one thing, the situation with the person that oversees 311. And if we have to post on, not post on, if we have to forward more of those, we will. So, all right. Today's Friday. Today's my last show. I missed the 12 o'clock meeting because I thought it was important. I kept the guy. I kept him a little bit too long. I guess he had to go to a meeting. So, all right, I'm going to get ready to go. Amanda said, "Oh, I always tell them to email me with a case number." I would say get it and write it down. Because I've heard some stories where people got hung up on and didn't get a case number because, and I will say that 311 in snow emergencies are not staffed by only 311 staff. We used to go up there and help cover 311. So, some people aren't as trained or whatever. They work 9 to 5, and it's not right. But I'm just saying the likeliness of someone getting hung up on is real. And this person that shared this, she's a trusted voice in community. So, all right. That's it for us today. And we will be back on Monday at 10 a.m. Next week, we have some great folks coming with us. The new CEO at the Thomas M. Menino Convention Center will be with us on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Mayor Michelle Wu will be with us on Wednesday at 10 a.m. And I've already said, please have her stable and not in the car, because we need to hear everything around a few things that she has to say. And then on Thursday, we will not be here at 10 a.m. We will be at GBH Amplifies James Jimmy Hills, host of Java with Jimmy, at the Copley Library News Cafe at 12:30 p.m. on Thursday. So please be with us. And Rhonda, thank you. So for those of you that are, some of our seniors have to call. Well, let me not say that, because some of y'all seniors know tech. There are some people that would prefer to call or have to call. Rhonda, I almost called I almost dialed 617-635-4500 the other day. Call 311 and or use the app, because the app thank you, Rhonda. The app automatically gives you a case number. And even if, because I've experienced, and I told them, do not close this until I'm satisfied. And they've closed it. So even if they close it, you got a reference point to say, no, I need this back open, or new case, and ask them to put that old case number in it. So they have a responsibility, but guess what? We do too. They don't troll the post. And then you have, when they say they debrief, we did this with fireworks. They are able to look at you know what? I can ask for that information. Either friendly, or I don't think they'll have me go through a FOIA. But we did that with fireworks. When people called 311, we were able to get a report where most of the calls were coming from. This is why we need to call 311, because at any point, if I invite somebody on, if I invite Chief Millar on and say, hey, can you come with some stats around where most of the 311 calls came from for snow? She can only report on what we report. I just thought about that. So it's not just doing it to make you do something else or whatever. Documentation and data are key. So that's it for me. We'll see